France to ban girls from wearing abayas in state schools. France Education Minister Gabriel Attal has announced a ban on girls in state schools from wearing abayas, long flowing dresses worn by some Muslim girls, due to concerns that they violate the principle of secularism. Attal emphasized that secularism in schools means freedom for students to emancipate themselves through education and that religious attires like abayas contradict this ideal. The ban has reignited debates over France's secular rules and their potential discrimination against the Muslim minority. While some view the abaya ban as an essential safeguard for secular education, critic argues it is overly restrictive and targets a particular religious group. French secularism has been a contentious issue, with previous laws banning ostensibly religious symbols in schools. The exact enforcement details for the abaya ban remains unclear, but it has sparked both political and societal discussion about the balance between secularism, religious freedom, and individual expressions in schools. Well, I guess anyone's wearing abaya is most likely going to identify as Muslim. And if wearing the cross is banned, and if wearing a turban is also banned, which directly identifies a particular group, then I guess it should be for everyone. Well, let's see how this plays out. Protests erupt in Libya over contact with Israel. Libya's Prime Minister has suspended the Foreign Minister Najla Mangoush after she met with her Israeli counterpart Eli Cohen. This meeting, a significant development given Libya's historic support for the Palestinian cause and lack of recognition for Israel, has caused protests within Libya. While Cohen hailed the meeting as a step towards establishing relations, Libya's Presidential Council, representing its provinces, deemed it illegal to normalize relations with Israel. The Israeli announcement surprised many due to Libya's historic stance against Israel, and it included an unusual level of detail about the meeting. Israel has been working on strengthening ties with Arab and Muslim-majority nations that do not officially recognize it. This encounter's political and diplomatic implications are compounded by Libya's internal division, with rival governments in Tripoli and Tobruk. Israel has been pursuing formal agreements with various Arab League countries, marked by Abraham Accords, which sparked controversy among Palestinians. The Libyan Presidential Council has demanded clarification from the government, citing violation of Libyan laws against normalization with Israel. I wonder why Israel is trying to normalize its relationship with Muslim countries. Maybe it's because it's starting to lose support from the United States and it knows that if the United States falls, Israel is going to be next. Well, this is an interesting development to say the least. Couple gets jailed for maid abuse that came to light. A Singaporean couple, Weng Che Ziang and his wife Jin Yan, have been sentenced for abusing their Indonesian maid over a period of 6 months. The abuse included physical assault such as slapping, hair pulling and kicking. The incidents were often triggered by perceived mistakes made by the maid or actions endangering the couple's children. Another maid at a playground noticed the bruises of the abused maid's face and reported the abuse to police after sharing the details on Facebook. Wang was sentenced to 13 weeks in jail and ordered to pay $1,000 in compensation, while Jin received 28 weeks in jail and a $2,500 compensation order. Both denied the charges and intend to appeal. The judge emphasized that Jin's involvement in the abuse was more severe than her husband's. It's very sad that this is happening in a country that is supposed to be a first world country that is supposed to be civilized. Unfortunately, I guess abuse and crazy people are not restricted to certain countries and third world countries, but exist in every part of the world. As unfortunate. Hope this domestic helper gets the help she needs. 7-fold increase in adult ADHD prescription over 10 years. The number of adults receiving NHS prescriptions for ADHD in Scotland has surged 7-fold over the past decade, a trend highlighted by BBC Scotland. Previously associated mainly with children, the condition is now being treated in nearly as many adults. There has been a notable rise in adult prescriptions since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. These findings have prompted calls for increased resources for services supporting individuals with ADHD. ADHD symptoms encompass difficulties in concentration, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. The rise in prescription reflects a growing awareness of adult ADHD in the medical community and society at large, likely contributing to the increase. While medication and therapy are considered effective in managing the condition, experts caution against hasty diagnosis and emphasize comprehensive assessments to distinguish ADHD from other potential causes of similar symptoms. Maybe like the short attention span everyone has due to the fact that they've been influenced by social media to the extent that they can't pay attention for more than 2 minutes on anything. Maybe that's a problem. Maybe we should just ban social media. Maybe that will solve the problem. Unfortunately, This is not going to be solved anytime soon simply because nobody's going to admit that they're addicted to social media. Nobody's going to admit that they're addicted to technology, and therefore, since nobody's going to admit that, everyone's just going to blame it on, oh, I've got ADHD, I've got a problem, ooh, help me. Well, let's just hope they get the help they need, and hopefully they will figure out how to get their lives back in order. Evergrande. Shares in the crisis hit Chinese developer plunge by 80%. Shares of China's troubled property developer Evergrande plummeted nearly 80% on its first day of trading in Hong Kong in a year and a half, marking a cumulative loss of over 99% in 3 years due to Beijing's crackdown on property companies. The company's dire situation is a focal point of a real estate market crisis, posing a threat to the world's second largest economy. Evergrande posted a 4.5 billion loss for first half of 2023, an improvement from the 11 billion loss in the same period last year. While revenues surged by 44%, cash reserves fell by 6.3%. Policymakers are striving to prevent financial contagion and support the economy and the real estate sector. China's property sector turmoil adds to concerns about the post-pandemic recovery, prompting policy interventions, including halving a stock trading tax and cutting interest rates. Evergrande, once a top-selling developer, accumulated over 300 billion in debt as it expanded aggressively, ultimately leading to missed interest payments and debt defaults and eventually the collapse of China. It's just a matter of time. Tick tock, then the dominoes keep falling. US faces more interest rates rises to cool inflation. At the Jackson Hole Symposium, US Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell emphasized the commitment to raise interest rates as long as it remains appropriate due to persistent high inflation. Despite a decrease from its peak, inflation still surpasses the Fed's 2% target. Powell acknowledged the potential for future interest rate increases, intending to keep policy as restrictive level until sustainable inflation reduction is observed. He cited the Ukrainian conflict and volatile food and energy prices as global factors affecting inflation. Powell hinted at future rate hikes pending additional data. The housing market's resurgence and ongoing wage growth were also noted, potentially warranting tighter monetary policy. Powell underlined the need for labor market softening before considering rate reduction, as rising wages can extend inflation and the need for higher rates. And in the next article, we'll explain exactly why this is all bullshit. You've heard of quiet quitting? Now companies are quiet cutting. Companies like Adidas, Adobe, IBM, and Salesforce are reassigning employees as part of their corporate restructuring. While workers are relieved to keep their jobs, they often experience mixed emotion about these reassignments. Reassigned employees worry whether the move is a signal to eventually push them out, and some are suspicious of being put in roles they might be miserable in, prompting them to leave. This practice of reassignment has increased significantly, with mentions of it in company earnings calls tripling over the past 3 years. For companies, reassigning workers can help them fill vital roles while cutting costs associated with old strategies. Employees are also less likely to leave voluntarily due to a less robust job market. However, employees facing reassignment should seek clarity from their managers about the reason and implications of the move to avoid misinterpretation and anxiety. On one hand, Powell says that the job market and the wage growth is improving and is getting very good. And on the other hand, companies are quiet cutting and basically reassigning everyone to positions that they will not like so that they will quit instead of being fired. Because if you fire a worker, then you'll have to pay severance, which is going to cost the company more. But if a worker quits, it's all good. I don't know where Jerome Powell is getting his data from, but clearly it's all one big giant scam. DYDX founder, crypto developers could benefit from avoiding the US markets. Antonio Giuliano, founder of DYDX Decentralized Exchange, has advised crypto developers to avoid serving US customers for the next 5 to 10 years due to challenging regulations. He proposed that focus on experimenting and growing in other international markets before returning with more leverage. Giuliano argued that startups could experience faster growth by prioritizing markets outside the US, where regulations are more receptive. Regulatory uncertainty, particularly surrounding the jurisdiction of US regulatory bodies, has hindered crypto progress in the country. Giuliano believes that for the crypto sector to influence US policy, it needs substantial growth and user base. Some crypto executives like Brian Armstrong of Coinbase disagreed with Giuliano's timeline, suggesting that progress might come sooner. Others like Evgeny Gavov of Wintermute aligned with Giuliano's view, stating that US might embrace crypto-friendly policies after significant global growth. The regulatory ambiguity has prompted crypto companies like Coinbase and Binance to explore friendlier markets abroad. US will adopt crypto and will have proper regulations for crypto after the US dollar collapse, and that's happening in the next couple of years. It's not going to be overnight for a world's reserve currency to collapse. Once the US dollar collapses, US will have no choice but to embrace the cryptocurrency environment or become a third world country, I guess. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for listening till the end of the video. Please like, share and subscribe. I'll see you again tomorrow.